Hi. Hello everyone and welcome to my monthly series of Movies of the Month. So glad you're here and so happy to see that you want to hear the movies that I have to talk about today. As you can see from this beautiful background I have behind me and the color and the ATST over there, I'm no longer in college. I am back home for the summer and I got a whole new thing, feel more comfortable here, and everything is going great. And through the process of me finishing college and moving back home, I still managed to watch some pretty cool movies for you guys, so let's get right into them. Throughout May, I had been working on rewatching all of the Star Wars movies so I could rank them, similar to how I did the Harry Potter series, except I didn't get through them all in May. So I won't be able to properly rank them here, but I can tell you this. Star Wars Episode 1 blows. Like, it is not really that good of a movie, and I don't understand, I feel like it's sort of praised a little bit, but it's really not that good. The Phantom Menace is basically about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn and their quest to protect Queen Amidala as there's new policies being changed in the Republic or something like that, and they're basically protecting her, and they meet Anakin Skywalker as a little baby, and they're like, hey, you're really strong with the Force. That's pretty much the whole movie's about. I mean, this is kind of a strange critique because it's just, it's an older movie, but the CGI and all the visual effects have aged horribly. It looks like doo-doo. It looks donkey doo-doo is what I mean. Also, just the plot isn't interesting at all. I mean, it's a very similar plot to the very first Star Wars: A New Hope, and it's just boring, really. The whole first hour of the movie is almost entirely useless. But where the movie, I think, really picks up its steam is in the second half, and that's probably some of the best Star Wars you'll get is from that last 30 or so. Last hour to 30 minutes is peak. Really, the only reason to watch this movie is the last part with the duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Darth Maul. The Duel of the Fates song is absolutely iconic, and that duel plus everything around it is beautiful and genuinely gave me goosebumps how good it was. The whole part with Anakin going to space and blowing up the ambassador ship or whatever the hell it was boring. I didn't care about that. I only cared about the Jedi and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, that sort of thing. One thing I really wish that they would have focused on more in this movie is the actual Phantom Menace part of the movie, considering that's in the title, but they decided to kind of gloss over that. Unless they're trying to say Anakin's the Phantom Menace, which is really interesting, but I think that's a stretch. I gave this movie 2 stars. I don't think I'd ever really want to rewatch it unless I only want to see that last part, which I just look it up on YouTube. So mostly just kind of a shit movie. So this movie basically centers around Renfield, which is Dracula's servant for life, and basically about their toxic relationship they have, and some other people get involved. It's really strange. All you need to know is that it's Dracula's servant. That's who Renfield is, and that's the whole movie is about. This movie really attempts to have some sort of substance to it, some sort of message or meaning, but it just kind of fails and just ends up becoming this really over-the-top comedy movie with some tiny bits of horror, which are so small it doesn't even really matter. One thing I really like about this movie, though, is Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I actually think he fits that role really well, and it's kind of funny because he tries to do this accent throughout the movie, and it's just his voice. There's no accent, it's just Nicolas Cage.
Some call me the Dark One. Others, the Lord of Death.
Really, the only reason you'd want to actually go out and watch this movie is because of the over-the-top action scenes and the crazy amount of gore that they have. There's fight scenes, and they get really detailed, and that's probably the best part of the movie. Me and my friends were all laughing, enjoying those scenes. Everything else was just kind of boring. You're just kind of waiting for those other action scenes to show up again. So this is about a 2.5 star movie. Definitely okay. probably wouldn't care to watch it again, but if you want to watch a really crazy, over-the-top movie with your friends, this is probably a good one for you. I swear to you, this movie exists. It is real. I watched the entire thing, and it's a movie. That's what it is. So this movie follows the story of a Chinese clone of Donald Trump who is living on Mars after the humans were wiped out, and about the Illuminati coming to kill him because they want to take over the world. And Donald Trump basically fights all these crazy monsters and even fights Satan himself at the very end. It's pretty stupid. I will say, though, as crazy and stupid and far-fetched this concept is, it is so much fun to watch. It's just it's one of those movies where it's so bad that it's good. The entire movie's animated, so you don't get a whole lot, but it's so funny to me that someone sat down and edited this entire movie, animated it, and had the idea for it and put it all together. Another thing I like about it is it's not taking itself too seriously. It is fully aware it's a stupid movie. It's a crazy concept, and it just rides it and just keeps going and going. And it's a lot of fun. And if you're really just looking for a really stupid movie to watch and to be like, well, this is crazy, this is definitely a good movie for you. So a little fun fact for you. This movie was directed by B.C. Furtney, which is a guy who also makes more animated movies just like this, and this is all part of a series. The other movies involved with this project include Bigfoot versus the Illuminati, Bigfoot versus Megalodon, Krampus versus Bigfoot, and my personal favorite, Manson and Dracula. I have no idea what these movies are like. I've only seen Trump versus the Illuminati, so if you guys really want me to watch these movies and see what's in them, I will do a review over every single one, and we can talk about them in particular per each video. So let me know if you want to see a series on B.C. Furtney's crazy, series of wacky movies he's made. Overall, Trump versus the Illuminati is a 2-star movie. No substance. There's nothing there other than a fun time. So if you're looking to have a great time with your friends, just laugh at a stupid bad movie, watch this movie. While this movie isn't super spectacular, it's definitely not like a masterpiece, but it's still a really good movie, and you can still really enjoy this movie. There is so much more in this movie than there is in the first one, and that's ultimately really good. This movie follows the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. It shows how the Clone Army and the Clone Wars were established. It also builds Anakin's character, his down spiral into, the Sith, all that fun stuff. More character development for our boy Obi-Wan, and just building the world a little bit more and setting up the Clone Wars. While this movie is decent, it really tumbles and stumbles its way there. It's not perfect. It's really awkward in the way that it gets from point A to point B. For example, Anakin's relationship with Padme and how they fall in love is insane. I haven't seen this movie in forever, and I've seen all of the memes about Anakin and Padme and their relationship, how it's totally weird, and they're so right. The fact that Padme falls in love with this guy is insane, and she definitely was under some Jedi mind tricks, because there is no way in hell she falls for him any other way.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
Another thing about this movie that's similar to the first episode is that the CGI really does not hold up. I mean, it blows my mind that I once thought this was prime CGI, and I see it now, I'm like, what am I looking at? This looks terrible. I also do want to say, Anakin and Padme and their relationship and George Lucas's strange dialogue, I do want to say it is kind of funny. It does not work. He is not charismatic at all. It doesn't work. But it's really funny, and it's so awkward that like it's good, that you're sitting there like, that's really funny that he just said that. Overall, I rated this movie 3.5 stars. Definitely a really good watch. I definitely would watch it again. Super fun movie, and definitely loved it. Definitely one of the best Star Wars movies, if not the best Star Wars movies ever made. This movie dives much deeper into Anakin Skywalker and his descent into the Sith and becoming Darth Vader, and how everything unfolds into the next movie, A New Hope. There is so much good in this movie, and I was just blown away still at how this stood the test of time and is still a great movie to watch. It has its shortcomings here and there. It has a couple like faults where some dialogue or some interaction just seems weird or off place. But that's just George Lucas, because I don't think that dude really knows how to write dialogue, and that's okay because everything else is really awesome. The intro to this movie is fantastic. I was just like blown away at how well it stood up, and the CGI is actually really, really good here. The interactions between Obi-Wan and Anakin I feel very genuine and feel real, and their acting in that part did really well. And of course, the ending with the duel of fates between Anakin and Obi-Wan, probably the best Star Wars fight you'll ever see, with the most like substance to it. There's so much writing in that fight, so much to be said, and like I love that Obi-Wan doesn't want to fight Anakin, and I think that's such a great plot pusher and just so good, and I love it so much. And I will say again, Hayden Christensen is a great guy, does some great stuff, but his acting, I don't know if it's the way he was written or if it's him himself. He just his deliveries and the way that he does things was always very strange and awkward, and I don't know if that's him or the movie, but he's always such an awkward, funny guy. But that was another thing I saw in this movie that I saw in the one before it that I was like, that's kind of weird. And I gave this movie 4 stars. Wonderfully great movie. Highly recommend to watch it if you ever get the chance. If you love Star Wars or wanting to get into Star Wars, this is a great movie to watch and a great movie to, I guess, start on, because it's just so great. Also, by the way, if you're looking to see my reviews on movies that I don't talk about in these videos and or want to see them before I actually talk about them, follow me on Letterboxd at Evaniel. Every time I watch a movie, I log it, rate it, and say something about it. If it's just a joke or I'm actually talking about it, you can see all those before the video happens. So follow the link in the description to my Letterboxd account and look at all of my crazy movie reviews on there. You can also see my favorite movies I've ever seen. The next movies I'm going to talk about are the more weird movies that I watched that were sort of experimental in the way that they were made and, what they are. First movie I'm going to talk about is Fantastic Planet, which is a movie on HBO Max that is a French movie that is entirely animated and drawn from, I think, the 1980s. So this movie focuses on the relationship between these little people named Ohms, who are like humanoid-ish, and these big blue creatures, which are named the Drags, and their relationship and the sort of like discrimination between Ohms and Drags, and how the Drags oppress the Ohms and that sort of thing. This movie's really weird. It's super strange, and the plot was very, like, I was behind it, like it was interesting, but I wasn't super invested in it. I wasn't like, wow, I'm feeling super emotional, or I'm not feeling emotional. I was more very interested in the art and what the images that this movie was producing. This movie produces some fantastic images. Get it? Fantastic. The images alone are enough to watch the movie. Like, I could probably watch this movie without sound and just love it. What they do is just so interesting and unique and so particular to this movie, and so happy I watched it, as it gave me just a whole new perspective on how to make movies and what film can look like in different avenues and that sort of thing. I would highly recommend to watch this movie at least once. It's all in French, so you gotta read subtitles, but it's really worth it for the visuals that you get. I gave this movie 3.5 stars. A wonderful watch, something I'd love to watch again, and something I will continue to watch. The next movie I watched was a movie called Mad God by Phil Tippett. And if you don't know who Phil Tippett is, this is the guy that did all of the sort of animation for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and so many other like big names. And this is his passion project he's been working on for the last 30 years. And it is entirely like clay animation. And it's just a totally weird and crazy movie that just tests what a dude can do in his basement with a bunch of clay. Probably wasn't a basement, probably a studio. But just to say it was, it'd be really interesting. To say this movie is weird is an understatement. This movie is weird, bro. It basically follows the story of a mad god. Sorry. And how these people are trying to go down into this deep underworld that's full of a bunch of crazy creatures and these like apocalyptic settings of like chains and machines and like people and monsters, scientists, surgeons, all sorts of stuff. This is a horror movie, so there's a lot of like, I wouldn't even say there's a lot, but there's definitely, a good amount of blood. There's some really weird and just disturbing scenes. You're like, what am I watching right now? I would recommend if you watch this movie, don't like eat anything while you're watching it. Maybe popcorn, but like, don't eat anything like gooey. You'll not want to eat it after. I have no idea what this movie is trying to say, and I would be willing to watch it again. It was so interesting. One of the big things that really stood out to me in this movie was the soundtrack. It actually has a really, really great soundtrack, and it seems like it was made for the movie, and it's weirdly calming for such a complex and crazy movie. If you're really into some experimental horror and just some crazy movies that don't really have a plot and are just kind of thrown out there for your interpretation, you will love this movie. I actually really liked this movie, and it's definitely something I want to watch again just because of how crazy and cool it was. And it was a good watch to watch with my friends. I rated this movie 3.5 stars. A totally crazy, weird, horrific movie. I recommend everyone should watch it because it is just so weird. This is the big movie of May, and I gotta say, Marvel has redeemed themselves and made an actual good movie. I sobbed like a little baby boy during this movie. It is so sad, and I am so happy I watched it. This movie is the final installment of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's basically the last time we will ever see this group of characters on screen again altogether. This movie focuses on Rocket and his story, where he comes from, and how all of the characters and all of the people in the Guardians of the Galaxy mean to Rocket, and what it means to all of them to have these sort of relationships. For the first time in a Marvel movie, I was able to watch it and actually find some substance here. There was something I could watch and be like, wow, I can connect with this, or I can understand this. There's an actual meaning behind it. This movie deals with some topics of like failure and friendship and just meaning in the relationships that you have. And I love the way that they do that with the characters that we already know and just building some really wonderful scenes. It was interesting for me to be able to watch this movie and connect with a raccoon that isn't even real, like a totally animated character. And for me to watch this character, have no connection to it whatsoever, and be like, wow, I can understand and I can feel for this thing. And that was just a really wonderful feeling to have, and I was so happy to finally find that in a Marvel movie again. This movie does have some minor issues. It is also a Marvel movie, so sometimes it has some just like poop jokes. I don't mean poop jokes as in like literal like shit. I mean like it's just, child humor. Just nothing that, we really care about. And I would say that the jokes in this movie do play along pretty well, and they hit and they, they land. But there are some in there you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. And there were some weird editing things that they did. Like there was a jump cut at one point. I was like, wow, that was really weird. After a big fight scene that you can notice, and I was like, that was really strange. We didn't need to do that. Now it just broke the flow. But overall, this is a really great movie, and I would highly suggest people go out and watch it if you can, or watch and wait till it comes out on Disney+. But watch this movie. It'll definitely hit you home. It's definitely a really good movie to watch, and you need to watch it. You, right now, you specifically. I'm looking at you. I rated this movie 4.5 stars, being the best rated movie that I watched in May, and I'm very happy that it takes that spot. It's such a wonderful movie, such a great watch, and so lovable. I love it. So to finish this video off, I want to say that the worst movie that I watched in May is a tie between Trump vs. the Illuminati and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, both with a 2-star rating, both being definitely not the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. And the number one best movie that I watched in May that I will continue to rewatch, and when it comes out, I will probably buy the DVD for, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I gave that movie 4.5 stars, a great movie. You all need to see it. I need to see it again. I love it. And that's everything that I watched in May. Obviously, there are some other ones, and if you want to see those rest, go to my letterbox in the description. Once again, I want to say thank you for watching all of my videos and sticking around and continually consuming my content, commenting, liking, and just being here with me. It really does mean the world, and I am always excited to make a new video to present to you guys. I hope everyone had a great May, and I hope your June is even better. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Peace out.